I, unlike you guys, actually support federal law enforcement officers.
Doesn't sound like it.
And doesn't sound like it?
I'm sorry. You're mad at Donald Trump for enabling.
You're okay with Donald Trump pardoning 1,600 January 6th officers that almost killed police officers. I'm not.
Hey everyone, so Trump held a big press conference yesterday along with Pam Bondi and some other members of the administration to explain his plans for Washington, D.C. Now, he's planning on cleaning up the city, and he cited several high-profile anecdotes of crime, violent crime in the city. So you had this former Doge staffer, Big Balls, who was, actually it's not funny at all, who was brutally assaulted when he was trying to intervene in this alleged carjacking. And obviously, if you just look up DC crime, you can find many other horror stories and horror photos of what's happening in the city. Now, because liberals tend to be a little reactionary, they were not happy with Trump's plans for DC. And some of them, or at least one of them, went on CNN to air her disdain. And so we're going to turn to that now. So this is Tara Setmayer explaining her problems with Trump's plans for the city.
Nationwide, let's use actual numbers as examples. There are 18 other places, other cities that have more violent crime than Washington, D.C. Number one being St. Louis, Missouri. 4 times the homicide rate of Washington, D.C. I don't see Donald Trump sending National Guard troops and taking over the police department there. Or in Memphis, or Memphis, Tennessee, another red state. Right, okay, then you know Memphis was one of the murder capitals of the world.
Yeah.
And how come you're not calling for Donald Trump to send National Guard troops in there?
Because I also understand the laws, and I understand that it's different in Washington, D.C., as it was explained by Joey.
Wait. He said he wants to also move this little experiment here of taking over cities and police departments to New York, Chicago,
It's amazing
Baltimore.
how much you guys get mad about fighting crime.
So no, don't change the subject. Nobody's getting mad about fighting crime. Let me finish. Nobody's getting mad about fighting crime. I come from a law enforcement family. My grandfather was a captain of the police department for 40 years in my hometown. My husband was a federal officer. I, unlike you guys, actually support federal law enforcement officers.
Doesn't sound like it.
Doesn't sound like it?
I'm sorry. You're mad at Donald Trump for enabling.
You're okay with Donald Trump pardoning 1,600 January 6th officers that almost killed police officers. I'm not.
Hold on.
So don't conflate the
Joey
issues.
make a legal
don't ever
point.
question my support for
I
law
want to let Joey
enforcement.
make a legal.
Okay, so there is a lot going on there. Most of it consists of yelling and henpecking and appeals to emotion. But let's cut through to talk about what she's actually saying. So she first makes the point that there are many other cities in the U.S. which also have a bad crime rate. Well, yes, that's true, and that's a bad thing, but there are a few reasons why Trump is focusing in on Washington, D.C. So Washington, D.C. is the nation's capital. It is supposed to be our crown jewel, and right now it is in desperate need of a polish. Come to the city. There are still very beautiful parts, but very quickly you'll realize that there is this destitution that is sprawled all over the sidewalks. And I'm sure most people have some sympathy for people who are living on these streets, but that doesn't change the fact that these are very often very dangerous people. If you live here, you will very quickly start to amass adverse experiences. And if you yourself are lucky enough to avoid, say, being harassed on the subway, then certainly you're going to know friends or family who are harassed, threatened, and at worst, actually assaulted. Now, Trump is also focused on Washington, D.C. because of particular legislation here, which gives him certain powers. So he can declare an emergency for 30 days, and he can, or until Congress intervenes, whatever happens first, and he can deploy the National Guard as part of that emergency. And I think that's what Ben was trying to say before Tara kept talking over him. The left is taking a very reactionary response to President Trump's entire administration, but certainly this instance of executive power. You have liberals going outside and banging pots and pans blocks away from where someone was shot. I wonder if a lot of these people who are protesting what Trump is doing actually haven't had much contact with violence or lived in a grimy, rundown neighborhood, lived in the ghetto themselves, because I think if they spent some time there, even people who are very opposed to Trump might might be endeared to his plans for the city. Now, not to worry, Tara had other thoughts about what President Trump is doing in his second term, and those were equally as incoherent. So she's going to talk about Trump's approach to immigration enforcement and ICE raids, and you really have to hear the example that she gives to believe it. So let's listen to her.
Though we're not talking about the Europeans or the Asians that have visa overstays. All the examples you guys have used have been about people who are Hispanic and speak Spanish. That right there, the fact that they're not asking to go and raid, like, you know, the French bakeries and the people who come over from Europe.
Is there a bunch of French bakery issues that we don't know about tonight? Breaking news tonight, there's French bakery problems. Guess what? There's a lot of people who come over here that stay illegally with visa overstays from European countries and other places that are not. I'm a law enforcement guy.
But I didn't hear you using those examples. So that's the problem. When you start going down the road, you got a chance to talk. Enough. We are not going down the road. When you start going down the road of racial, well, use that as an example because you used Home Depot, and you guys are uninterested in the racial profiling of people who are not Hispanic or not speaking.
There was an interesting note.
That's a problem.
If there's hundreds of French bakery workers outside of French bakery, let's go there too.
You can be as obnoxious as you want about it, but you know that the facts are about visa overstays, and that's what you guys are talking about.
One of the most entertaining parts of this entire panel is Abby Phillip desperately trying to rein in the panelists as their emotions flare up and they start just talking over each other. I really enjoy it. I actually appreciate what she's doing here. It's great television. But to her point about French bakeries, yes, I was not aware that we had this wave of illegal French immigrants residing within our borders. But if that were true, certainly we should raid the bakeries. We should raid, I don't know, any place you can buy cigarettes. We should raid, bookstores that sell kind of like depressing philosophical novels. I think these are where the French tend to congregate. But no, the reason why we're talking about Home Depot is because now everyone feels comfortable saying, yes, the majority of illegal migrants the United States is hosting, unwillingly hosting now under the Trump administration, are going to be from Mexico, are going to be from Central America. And you have other migrants, for instance, Chinese migrants who are coming in or were coming in through the southern border because it seems like it was an open secret that there really was no border security there, and it was a great way to get access to the United States. Now, she seems to be making some sort of point about racism or racial profiling, and she's sort of white knighting on behalf of the Hispanic community. But in the first place, Spanish is a European language. It's as European as French. I think sometimes people forget that because people in the US associate Spanish with Mexicans mostly. But there are many Mexicans and other people from Latin America who are also white. As beneficial as it is to have an Argentinian grandma in your history when you apply to Harvard, yes, there are many white Latinos. There are also non-white Latinos. There are also Latinos who have a significant amount of Native American admixture. But this is all really besides the point because no one is being targeted for the color of their skin or for their haplogroup or something. They're being targeted, obviously, because they came into the United States illegally. And there are many examples of people who are indisputably white being deported or facing issues with their visas under the Trump administration, which you could refer Tara to. So one that comes to mind is there was this Russian scientist who was accused, let's say, of smuggling frog embryos into the U.S. She's being held. I don't know if she's been deported yet, but clearly there was not an issue with her skin tone. It was, hey, you're not a U.S. citizen and you're allegedly trying to bring things into the country, and we don't really know for what purpose you are smuggling these frog embryos in. But anyway, I digress because there's really no way to convince somebody who adamantly believes that Trump is racist that he doesn't really seem to care about that sort of thing. But what do you think about these objections to the Trump administration? What do you think about what he's doing in DC? Let me know in the comment section below. Give this video a like, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.